in such a short time frame, the impact that Andrew's able to have on people is profound, and it can be implemented straight away. So I want everyone to make sure you've got pen and paper and that you're taking notes, and just hold on to your questions. Unless Andrew says that he can stop mid-flow to answer them, I'd prefer you to hold on to them to the end so he can just get through his stuff. And just message me in chat and let me know you want to ask a question, and I'll make sure I facilitate that through so that you have plenty of time, because otherwise it can disjoint the flow of what you want to run with, and we can take it from there.
Good on you, Jade. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think there is a couple of people here from the weekend's workshop in London. I know Joe Courtney, you were there, and I feel like from a personal level, I have high standards for myself. I know when I haven't reached those, but I feel in London we hit a nice little sweet spot throughout the day, and the feedback since that has been quite phenomenal, actually, Joe, to be fair, hasn't it? And there's a part, let's let Heather through here, there's a part that, although the Trojan horse of which I teach is presenting, there's a lot more to it that goes in behind, which is allowing people to step up into their greatness, empowering people, and geez, there's a whole lot of latecomers here. Okay. I think that's it. Lovely. It's okay to be inspired. A lot of speakers want to inspire. Hey, Heather. A lot of speakers want to inspire. But for me, inspiring is very short-lived. What we want is the tools. And of course, when we learn a new skill, this is why I teach this expansion as well. When we learn new skills, such as presenting, even if we are a world-class speaker, if we don't change who we fundamentally are as a person, we won't attract a new opportunity. Does that make sense to everybody? I can see heads nodding, so. Okay, now how I discovered this was actually way back in the day when I was acting and TV presenting. And to be fair to my peers, a lot of them were better than me. However, and still are the same people. Therefore, the opportunities never came through them. It took me a little while to start figuring out why, but I was always pretty, perhaps accidentally, good at changing who I was fundamentally. In the last few years, in fact, I started what I would call Life by Design, which was effectively has now become Expansion, back in January 2015. So I'm going to bring up something and start to share my screen. All right. Can everybody see that? Nice. This is very similar to what we did on Saturday, Joe. A few little tweaks. It's actually nice to see this time and time again. So the penny drops a little bit more and a little bit more. The more you hear this, the more value you get from it. And of course, the more you understand it, the more you're able to, do I have to, it's more people too, there we are. The more that you hear it, the more that you are able to implement it. All right. So what is expansion? We've all heard the saying, very, very simple. Since we were kids, you can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expect different results. You get the same life, you get the same day, or some call it Groundhog Day or living in the hamster wheel, because you're making the same decisions based on who you were yesterday. I like to put things into layman's terms. This is so I can understand it myself. This isn't just for other people. This is so I can understand it. So if we keep making decisions, emotional decisions, emotions being from past experience, if we're making future decisions based on past experience, what are we going to get in the future? We're going to get the past. This is a fundamental of what is happening to so many people. They go around in the hamster wheel and get the same thing over and over again and go, why me? Why is this happening to me? I've got such shitty luck. Or they're not getting opportunities. What I discovered was there is a way to constantly create new opportunities, and then not just have the opportunity, but the ability to grow into the person required to make the most of that opportunity. That's the most important part right there. Each opportunity that I get given or that I bring in or make for myself, I then grow into that person that has the ability to make the most of that opportunity. So you can't stay the same. A different life and new opportunities require a new personality. This isn't saying that your old personality is crap, by the way. This is simply saying that we're constantly refining into the person that we need to be to have that life or those opportunities that we want. We are constantly growing and refining ourselves. Little stick figure here. So if we're looking, using our old lens to create our future, we're going to get the past, pretty much. So we have to reframe every single day to the point where you break it down that every moment of every day, you're seeing life through a new lens. Does that make sense to people? Now, I will keep explaining this as the penny's going to drop and drop and drop. I'll keep simmering this down or boiling this down. So effectively, you're designing you every moment of every day to create new opportunities. The way your actions and your reactions, how you're acting in every given moment and how you're reacting in every given moment, because this is what we're doing every day, right? We're taking actions and we're reacting. NLP people don't really like the word reacting. I like it because it's my language, so it makes sense to me. So actions, reactions. You've got a choice every time you might take an action to do it differently than you would before. Every time you react to something, if you're going back into the same way you react, which has now become your fundamental or has now become your program, you're going to get the same thing and the same reactions back. So effectively, what I like to start thinking about is, how do I step into my greatness every day? How do I step into my greatness every day? This is where things start to get fun. Why just become different when we can actually choose to be great every day and every time we react and act? So this is something that I say, this is the best question or sentence that I've probably written for myself in my lifetime. Sorry, just letting someone in. In 1 year's time from today, when I'm already in my greatness, how do I act or react right now? So every time I'm faced with a decision that makes that little boy in me come up again and go to act or react in a way that comes from fear or not love or not being brave, I ask myself this simple question: how would I act or react in 1 year's time when I'm already in my greatness? So I'm basing my decision making and actions on myself, not now, but who I would be when I am great in 1 year's time. So what do you think happens then every day? You're constantly making decisions that were different from you yesterday. Does that make sense so far? I'm going to give you an example. When I set out on a tour of the world, do you think there was a part of me that wasn't shit scared? All part of me was. What if no one turns up? How much is this going to cost me? What if I make no money from this whole thing? What if I fail and people start laughing at me? Of course, You just ask the question, in 1 year's time from today, when I'm already in my greatness, how do I act or react right now? When you sit in that and you go, I don't choose to be me from yesterday. I am greatness. We are all tapped into the same thing. This is the thing to really get your head around. We are all the same. We are all tapped into the same life force, or the bigger thing. I don't know what to call it, by the way. I don't have a word for it. Thou shall not be named. We're all tapped into the same thing. And if we allow ourselves to step into that greatness that we were all born to have or be, if we choose to do that in every given moment of every day, when we make a decision or go to react, what was my action when I decided to go on a world tour? I went in 1 year's time from today, when you're already in the greatness. That's easy. People will come. And worst case scenario is you get to go around the world. Yes, you'll be down financially, but what happens if it does work? And of course, this is where you go back to this as well. By the time the world tour came around, London, for example, I had grown into the person who was capable of making the most of that opportunity. So the difference between London June 30 last year and London March 30 this year was actually quite significant. The peace I felt when I was working with people, how comfortable I felt, my content was very different. The amount of people in the room was, I think, my first round was 14, this time was 40-something, I think, something like that. And I'm not saying the caliber of the people in the last one was bad. It was just such a different mix of people. Still beautiful people, but attracting more heavy-hitting people and people who were ready to move. So if I'm constantly, I'll use another example for you. When stepping into Bali or Portugal, when you rent a retreat space, there's money outlaid. And again, you go, what if no one turns up? In 1 year's time, when I'm already in my greatness, what is going to happen? How would I make my decision now? It's not out of fear, it's out of greatness. Does that make sense? I just want to really drive this home. It's huge. Also, business is just problem solving. If you get problems, you realize that you're in business. It's just a really good sign that you're in business, unfortunately, but it's just the way it is. So how do you react when you get bad news, when you get challenges? How do I react to this news in 1 year's time when I'm already in my greatness? You simply sit back. Well, I do. I sit back and I go, how would I react to this in my greatness? Now I always come back with empathy for the other person if it's something happening. And I just come at things from, how would they be seeing this right now? Instead of me reacting, I come back from a different point of view than I would have yesterday or especially a year ago. Does that make sense? Okay. If you practice this in as many moments as you can every single day, can you imagine how much this will change your day? Even if you're doing this 2-3 times in a day. Okay. I love this little part. I didn't know what to call these, so I called them journey buckets. If anyone's got a sexier name than buckets, you're most welcome to send it to me. Okay, but at the moment, they're journey buckets. I'm okay with it. My partner, Danny, seems to think it's clunky. I think everybody in London had a bit of a laugh. It became a bit of a joke throughout the day, but I like journey buckets. It makes sense to me. Through the journey is all of the goodness. It is never the goal. It is never the end result. I've stopped making goals. I haven't made goals for quite some time, but I've never... Someone else is sharing their screen.
You've lost control.
And it's on my Zoom link. Who's
It's Michelle. Michelle, can you stop sharing, please? You should be able to take back control, Andrew.
This is my live event, Michelle. Bloody hell. Thought it might, I'm just waiting for that irresistible offer about to come up on my screen. Anyway, back to my journey buckets, Michelle. The journey is where all the gold is. The more that we understand this and relish it and understand the journey is where you build your character. Let's look at the things that comes through the journey. The more that angle goes up, can you see my little mouse? I'm sure you can. The more you angle this up with where you're going and what you want to achieve, the little milestones that you put out for yourself, the faster these buckets fill up. I'm quite impressed with these buckets, to be fair. I think this is quite a good metaphor. The character comes from those challenges. Character comes from relishing the stuff that's in front of you and understanding if I want to be great, if I want to be stand in my greatness, even really bloody good, you have to be able to rise above your circumstances. If you don't get circumstances to rise above, you'll stay the same. And you'll end up as a snowflake. I don't know if anyone knows what snowflakes are, but snowflakes melt under pressure. Character here, we fill up that bucket of character. You fill up your unique perspective. For me, this is business 101. What makes people stand out and do well in business is because they have a unique perspective on life, a unique take on life. The more that you challenge yourself, the more character you'll create and the more of a unique perspective you'll have on life. Thirdly, the skill. Business is just problem solving. Life is just problem solving, to be fair too, isn't it? The more that you angle this up with the challenges that you give yourself, you cannot fail. You don't challenge yourself so hard that you get sick. I mean, for the United States coming up next week, I had done San Francisco and New York. What I discovered was London, San Francisco, and New York was too much for me. Too much on a capacity health-wise and too much on a capacity I actually just didn't have the hours in the day. That was just me biting off more than I can chew. Some people would call that a failure that I cancelled San Francisco. I call it a really bloody good win. I learned more about the American culture than I ever had before. I learned a lot about the American culture. I learned a lot about relationship building. And I learned that there is a massive difference between East Coast and West Coast of America. I realized that there's a massive difference between Americans and Australians and British. This was a massive learning curve for me. And all I did was let go of my ego and cut San Francisco free after building some amazing relationships there. And I still win. I've got people now flying in from all over the world, which is fantastic, to New York. That's a pretty good failure, wouldn't you say? So that skill level, the skills that you learn for business, the skills that you learn in your artistry, all come from the journey, your stories. There's no public speaker or presenter who doesn't have stories. Your stories come from your journey. And then the answers. For me, answers are me constantly talking about what it is that I do from my unique perspective. And when I do that, I feel like I'm asking the question. And when I'm asking the question, I feel like I get given the answers. Does that make sense? The answers come to me. I know stuff about presenting that I've never been taught. This is my unique perspective. And it's because I'm allowing myself to go deeper and deeper into what it is that I do through the journey. So I want to go back here. So if you don't enjoy the journey and you want to speed things up and skip through your rite of passage, just remember that these buckets won't be as full. See how useful these buckets are? These buckets will not be as full. This is now I should actually have resilience in here. Now to think about it, I need a sixth bucket. Resilience comes from here as well. So who do you need to be to have what you want? It's not the goal, it's the person you need to be to invite that goal in. Instead of focusing on the goal, which is out here, focus on where the gap is between where you are now and who you need to be to invite that goal in, because this is what this is. If we go deeper into this and we talk about something that I'm sure you've all heard about, which is vibration or energy, I don't talk so much on that level. I understand it, but vibration and energy, when you fill that gap up and you're that person that's capable of handling that opportunity or bringing that opportunity in, that's when these start to come in. Does that make sense? But if you're staying the same, fundamentally the same, the opportunities that you have going on around you are what is pretty much what you're all going to receive. The more I change, the faster and more the opportunities. Heather, I think you've been seeing me from the start of my journey. You've seen the opportunities that come in, and I'm very aware of what I'm doing. In fact, we had a little banter last night, and I was like, I'm just staying in my lane. Okay. Here's the bridge. I know it's about as sexy as the buckets. I get it. The bridge. This is us now. Here is greatness on the other side of the bridge. This is our service. This is how we get people to the other side. Most of the time, I'm going to give you some tools in a second. Most of the time, people get to about here or here, and they say things aren't working or it gets too hard, and they go back. But you have these tools or these words or these new characteristics of you need to become your new normal. When they have become your new normal, you get right across the bridge. Is that a good metaphor or not? I thought it's actually quite good, to be fair. So here we are. This is why when you can coach somebody, but unless they do the work, they don't get to here. And we see this all the time. People get to about here, some only get to about there, some get to about here, and they just go, man, this is harder than I thought. Of course, because you're breaking your programming. Or you'll forget, you'll get to here and you just forget. You go, I've stopped asking myself in 1 year's time from today when I'm already in my greatness, how do I react to it or act right now? If you stop doing that, you're going to go back to here. It has to become your new normal, your new way of thinking. When it becomes your trigger or your new way of thinking, you will never make decisions the same again. You will always be making decisions based on you and your greatness 1 year's time from today. You're constantly going to be future leaping. How cool is that? Okay. This is how I do this. I work in a really basic way. I look at fundamentals of myself that are holding me back, or I look at things that I need to be or to become to take that next step into greatness. This is all I do. One of the things for me was I needed to be far more decisive. I was fluffing about on dates, venues, my content, just lots of the stuff that most of us do, to be fair. Entrepreneurs are an incredibly indecisive bunch. But when we change that and become really decisive, I feel like we're looked after. You know, it's like, and this isn't subliminal, this isn't subliminally saying invest in me, by the way. You know, when we have a mentor and we umming and ahhing about, should I go to that retreat? Should I pay for this mentor? Or should I go to, do something? And it's when you commit and pay it and the energy changes in you and then everything starts falling into place. How many of us have experienced that? I get that all the time. This is the funny thing. I pay my mentor and I speak to him probably once every 3 months because I know my energy changes. I know my energy has changed by the fact that I've invested in him. I know that sounds weird, But as soon as I let go and decided I was going to step up, I moved my energy. And I changed. And that shifted the whole thing for me. I do that time and time again now. I tell you what, when you do a world tour, you have to really step into that energy, because the money you make's great, but holy shit, your expenses fly out the other side. And so you've got to shift. I have to shift my energy about getting used to that. Does that make sense? Aligning myself with the person who is capable of handling this and stepping up to this, and knocking it out of the park. So words I become: decisive. I just got a Post-it note, and I wrote the word decisive on the Post-it note. Really simple. I then looked at that note every day, every single day. And every time I was failing to make a decision, I looked at that and I went, no, I'm decisive. I'd make a decision. Now being decisive has become my default. You see how that changed me? So making a new decision and that becoming a new me meant the outside world reflected that immediately. Does that make sense? If I change who I am fundamentally, my outside world must reflect that. That's really good reward. Embrace failure. I think, I don't know how many, I can't see everyone on here, but Heather, you would know that it's not that I love failing, but I'm okay with failing, right? I'm okay to give it a good go, and I embrace the failure because I ultimately know that's my success. And ultimately, if anyone knows my backstory, my first tour of Australia, I cancelled 4 out of the 5 cities. 4 out of the 5 cities. Melbourne was full. I think, Heather, that's where I met you. Melbourne was full, and so I moved to Melbourne. I gave London a bit of a nudge, and now I'm in Europe for half the year. I just took these. I was okay with failing. I was okay with failing because now I know that when I take that leap of faith and I give myself the best possible chance to succeed, even when I fail, I've changed as a person and I've grown. And once you've grown, you can't go back to your old self. It's too late. You've already stepped into that greatness a little bit more. Playfulness. This is why I cancelled San Francisco. Everything needs to be, for me, playful and fun. If I'm not having fun, I got to let it go. This is why I let San Francisco go. It was just mornings where I was getting up and just going, this is too much. This is too much. I let it go. Embody has been huge for me. These are just suggestions for people, by the way. Embody, meaning you cut the fluff out of your language. No kind of maybes. I could do this. I might do this. Screw might. You're either doing it or you're not. Be decisive. Embody meant that I own the words that were coming up for me. I own what it is that I do. I own my area of authority. That word embody has been a game changer for me. I don't take things personally. I just embody what it is that I do, and it's made a massive change to not only my work on stage, but my work off stage. Huge. And action taking. You see how these are just words. You just discover what is a word that I can become. Does that make sense to everybody? I can only see a few heads, so I'm just going on what I can see. Confident is not the best word to have on a Post-it note because confidence for me is just a byproduct. It's a byproduct of all these other changes. So these are just some words for you to become. So here's some more examples. Decisive. If being decisive is one of your weak points and it's getting in between you and where you want to go or the person you need to be, get rid of it and become decisive. Put it on a Post-it note. You will know when you don't need that Post-it note because you would have become that person. When I first started doing this, I used to have 10 words at a time and I'd have it on my phone and that phone would set off an alarm 3 times a day and I'd stop whatever I was doing and read those. And it was amazing. Whenever I went through and a word didn't resonate for me anymore, I was like, I'd go, I've become that word. Then I'd go into some thought and go, what has changed in my life since I've become that word? There's always so much. Life changes. As soon as you change, life changes too. I never use the word too hard. It's their fault, not my fault. I always reflect on my part in everything. And I always give myself the best possible chance to succeed when I have opportunities coming up. I do the work, I prepare, I grow into the person that I need to be. And I simply do that by setting myself these wonderful challenges and then figuring out what's in the gap. Who do I need to be to fill that gap up, to be at that place? By the time I hit that stage or whatever it is that challenge is, I'm ready to go. And this is where you get more opportunity. Okay. All right. Oh my God. On the money, 30 minutes. Let's go through. Jade, what would you like to do? To go through some questions? I know I saw a lot coming up.
Yes, please. Questions would be wonderful. So, has anyone, I can't see, hold on 2 seconds, I've just got to change screenshots. If anyone would like to ask a question, do this. I'll ask you a question to get the ball rolling though, Andrew. So what would you say is one morning habit you could do to start shifting that mindset? Like the minute you get up, what would you suggest people start doing?
I love this question because I actually don't do anything.
Do
you know what? Actually, no, I'll reframe that. I don't have morning rituals, and I always love it when people talk about morning rituals and they do this, and they meditate and blah blah blah. I don't. I normally look out my window and I start to become curious as soon as I can about the fact that I'm anything at all. I just look at my plants, and there's nothing really that I do, but I become excited about what lies ahead today. Like today, I've got a huge day. I've got 13-hour days, radio interviews, podcast interviews, this. And it's quite full on, but I'm excited by each one. I'm allowing myself to get really excited by each one coming up. I've created these opportunities. Now it's time to play. That's a better way of looking at it. Sorry, Tessa and Alex. Sure, Mishka's just come through again. What else have we got there, Jade?
Monkey room.
Either that or we could take their mics off and they could ask. Because I know after something like that, there's questions that...
Belinda, you want to go ahead?
Jade, you've got Bali Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I do.
So if you would like to unmute yourself and ask questions, I'm more than happy to answer, because I know that in this space, there's normally a couple of things that need to drop for people.
Another question is probably...
Terry Kern, so important to hear the wounded inner child. I think, Terry, just to flesh that out, so important to heal the wounded inner child. I think we all talk about this wounded inner child, and of course there's healing to be done, but I don't think about it as healing. I just think as the inner child as coming from a point of view of an inexperienced, frightened child. I'm an adult now, most of the time. Well, I'm giving it a good shot. So I'm adulting, and I now have that ability to choose, do I make decisions from that frightened little boy inside of me? Do I make them from the greatness that is my future? And so if I'm making them from that future, it's not that for me, I don't need to heal the little boy inside. It just doesn't need to make my decisions for me, that's all.
Hey Andrew, it's Alex. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I guess my question was, so your buckets in your bridge, which I thought the drawings were quite cute, but anyway, never mind.
Thanks, Melissa.
You say, how do you keep your buckets full all the time? How do you do that?
Well, if you think of your journey from birth until now, has been filling your buckets. So we talk about how do we, what I'm trying to get at there is, don't shirk or turn your head on the journey or the challenge within the journey, because there's this emphasis now of if people were given the opportunity to take a pill and skip the journey out and just get to success or that goal, if you just jump to that goal, you would lack the character, the skill, the unique perspective of handling that goal. Does that make sense? You wouldn't have the skill set, the capacity to handle that goal. You need the journey. You need the journey to have those buckets full first.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense.
Okay, that doesn't sound very convincing. Rose, through...
Laugh, Mel.
What's that? Okay.
I was telling Mel not to laugh. No, I don't quite understand what you're saying. So from childhood, you're learning things, which I understand that. But how, as an adult, do you keep those things, that bucket full all the time and not let holes get in it?
Well, those skills, that perspective, those character, those stories, they don't fall out holes. You've always got them. This is a hole-proof bucket, okay? This isn't a Bunnings bucket. This is like the best bucket you could buy. It's hole-proof.
Okay.
So the steeper the gradient of the challenges you set yourself, the faster and the more quality those buckets will fill. Oh my God, that was pretty good. Does that make sense? If you're doing the same thing over and over again every day, those buckets are going to fill very slowly. But if you steer that gradient of your challenges up a couple of notches outside of your comfort zone, those buckets fill up faster and of more quality stories, unique perspective, skill, character.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
I feel like I nailed that one.
You should write that one down.
Next. Yes, it's the same as lottery winners who are financially worse. Bingo. Peter, you've nailed it for me. This is why lotto winners are worse off a couple of years later, because they haven't filled their buckets. Does that make sense? They've gone from, they've effectively taken the magic pill. This is why I've got a wonderful friend, really nice friend, and he was a very big man, huge man, and he was given the choice of surgery, which is effectively taking the pill. Instead, he chose the journey. It was actually the journey buckets come from a conversation with him and figuring out the journey. He wanted to focus on the big man to small man, the losing the weight. I said, your real value on stage is the journey that you've been through and helping other people understand what that journey is and why it's worth taking the journey instead of the magic pill. It's the same with the lottery winners. If you've gone from this huge person and you've lost weight the real way through the journey, the character, the building, the struggle, this has changed. You've filled those buckets up along the way. I think that was another good metaphor, isn't it? Nice. Do you know my prizes at the end, just going to Michelle's question there, my prizes at the end have always been getting to the opportunity. And when I get to the opportunity, it's playtime. This is not when I go into my shell. I think Heather, I speak about this with you a bit when we meet, is the opportunities you create a playtime. If you've done the work and you've become that person who's capable of making the opportunity and making the most of that opportunity, when that opportunity comes around, then you're able to relax and enjoy it because you're in the moment and you have the skills, you've got the character, you've got the stories, you're already that person. So you can actually enjoy these moments instead of going, I don't want to screw this up. You can't screw it up because this is a beautiful thing. You can't screw it up anymore. If you are that person at that playing at that level, if you've become that person, you actually can't screw it up because you can't go back to the old. You can't go backwards. The only way is up. There's a song in there somewhere. Before to fix up the princess. The process is that myelination. The process of. It's too detailed for me, so that's over my head. Nice.
And
nice. Anyone else there, Jade?
You're catching most of them. I just want to see if we can switch gears for a second and ask them. I want to ask some selfish questions, if that's.
Go for it.
As someone that's looking to, which has post-it notes of all the speaking that I have to do this year, and I've never done any speaker training. So, a note in every month. And the little nagging voice gets on my shoulder about, ooh, am I good enough? How? Like, I know all this stuff. I know about the mindset stuff. I teach this stuff, right? What's your tips for me to quiet that little bitch over here?
Real simple. Be better. I know that sounds quite funny, and I'm going to elaborate on it, so just don't leave you with that.
Just leave me hanging.
People ask me all the time. When I ask them, so what is your goal, or what's the thing that you envisage yourself with your speaking? And they go, I want to be traveling the world, standing on international stages and presenting my message. I'm like, okay, cool. And they go, what do I have to be to make that happen? I'm just like, really fucking good. Do you know what I mean? This isn't a rocket science. This is so simple. If you want to be on an international stage, you have to be an international speaker, that level. If you want to be speaking at meetup groups, you need to be a good local speaker. If you want to be national, you need to be a good national speaker. We're probably great with Becca. So when you have the foundation of the tools and the skills that enable you to walk on stage going, no matter what happens, I actually can't screw this up. The byproduct of that is confidence. And of course, you don't get the little, as you I think your technical language was little bitch. She doesn't have a voice. And of course, I get nervous before I go speak. I spoke to 100 women entrepreneurs last week at a really beautiful event in London. And there was not one part of me that was unsure of myself. The only part that was unsure was there's still, as humans, we want there to be certainty on stage. You know, you want to know prior, I'm going to knock the ball out of the park, right? But unfortunately, life's not like that. There is no certainty, and there's no. But that's what the beautiful part is, because if there was certainty, then those little off-the-cuff jokes and those little moments, or the holy grail of presenting for me is when you're on stage and you're out of your own way so much you become a conduit for infinite wisdom. This is where you start to articulate things from a place, the base soul or in your gut that you didn't even know that you knew. This is when the magic.
I think that's a huge part, because I used to get so fearful that I'd forget my content, or I forget to say something important.
Yes, well, Are you an expert in what it is that you speak about? The answer is yes, just because I can see
The answer is yes.
Yes. The answer is
Yeah.
yes. Most of us are experts in our field. Therefore, it's impossible for us to forget what it is we're going to say on stage. So normally, and I did this on Saturday when Joe was there in London, I issued one table, and one table got the responsibility of listening to every word I said all day, because if I forgot what I was speaking about, they had to remind me. The other table to my left had to tell me if I had food in my teeth. It was really simple. I had all my bases covered. So I forget what I'm talking about on stage, especially if someone interrupts or something happens, or I go off on a tangent because something's happened, or you get into flow and you become that conduit. You can go off. But if we're authorities in what it is that we do, which most of us are, I believe, we can speak about something. Everyone on this call can speak about something way better than somebody else because they know their area a lot better from their unique perspective. Therefore, you can't ever forget what it is we're talking about. Take that into your next talk. Do you know what I mean? Take that into your next talk. And of course, when we allow ourselves that opportunity to get into flow or become a conduit for infinite wisdom, we're not going to have certainty on stage anymore. Certainty goes out the door. You can either have certainty, which is regurgitating information. Basically, go back to high school, learn, pass on, learn and pass on. This is what high school was, wasn't it? This is what school 101 was. Learn information, regurgitate it. We're past that. If you step into the reality of that we're infinite possibility, this is the cool thing, we are infinite possibility, then you don't want to restrict yourself on stage by certainty. You want to be able to go out on stage with a skeleton of what you want to do and give yourself the best opportunity to dive into the uncertainty, which is getting into flow and becoming a conduit for infinite wisdom. Oh my God, that was the best thing I've said on this web event so far. You get that? Does that make sense? Like when we copy and paste, we're working here. When we step out of that, needing that certainty, we actually step into infinite. And that's what makes you dangerous on stage. That's what makes you engaging, makes you edgy, because you don't know, people don't know what you're going to say. And the funny thing is because you don't know what you're going to say either. And they can feel that. This is when I have Melissa, who works with me at the back, going like this to me, like, no, don't go there. So.
And Jade is waiting to be let back in.
Oh, there she are. She's back in.
I'm back.
Sorry, guys. This is new for me. This having to admit people in. Normally, you just jump on.
Sorry about that.
Is there anything else?
Oh, give me a second. As I was missing for a minute. Maybe I'm being selfish. I'm asking you questions just because I've got your time, and normally I only get to talk to you about other business stuff. So because I'm actually going to be joining you in May here in Bali.
My God, they're letting everybody in.
I know. They just let anyone just come on in. I know. And because I'm freaking out because I haven't done speaker training, and so I'm getting to come and be a part of the masterclass. I want to know what some of the key takeaways, like put my mind at rest. What are you going to teach me? What am I going to walk out with so I can stop freaking out?
It's interesting. The tour that I'm doing at the moment is literally refining the material. This is how I roll with things. Before I do a retreat, I always take my material and new things because I can't regurgitate. I have to keep going in and discovering more because I realize that my skill is, my art presenting is infinite. Therefore, I can't rest on what I did last year. There's no stimulation in that for me. And if I'm not stimulated and enjoying it, my audience and those participating won't enjoy it. So what we're going to do is, one of the things, I think Joe, most people found this incredibly useful, is creating a moment-to-moment model. So we'll create your signature talk, but in a way that is in a loose framework and allows you to have different stories to make key points. Those stories are ammunition that allow you to go, one, you can make your audience have a chuckle, laugh with you or at you. They love laughing at you for some reason. Or you have a story that makes them go deeper and connects more to keep making key points. So I have a nice framework. I call it a moment-to-moment model. This is something that it's taken me 2 years to build. The first time I ever presented it was a complete mess. Now we're 2 years down the track, and I'm using this every time I go on stage. And you can condense it. You can use it for a 10-minute talk. You can use it for a whole day. In fact, it is how I put my whole day together in London. Yep. So you can use this for work. That template moment-to-moment model be a workshop or a 10-minute talk. We'll go through, obviously, expansion. We're going to do something called Amplify Your Moment, which is an exercise. We'll do that once or twice. We'll take you to the greatest moment of your life. The greatest moment of your life, what it feels like, what it looks like. It's basically that little last slide that popped up that said, let's create your own short story. This is what I do. This is my signature experience that I add to my talks. Everybody, so you're going to walk away with your own signature experience. A signature experience is something that you can guarantee. This is how I want people to feel at a certain point in my talk. Mm-hmm. What's funny now is I actually get asked to do my signature experience just as much as I get to speak about presenting. So my signature experience, which is called Amplify Your Moment, has now become its own thing. So we will create one of those for everybody else. This is something we didn't do last year in Bali. It's something we're going to do this year.
Wow, that's awesome. So that's like something I could use for my book launch. Completely.
It's something that during your talk, what happens, this is the difference here. What happens if you speak, especially in a summit or there's a few speakers, if people are technically trained and Heather, we saw this in Bali, people walk on stage, they stand in their power, they look up like RoboCop and they deliver. And it starts with the hero's journey, and then we unpack and we do this is a typical template. If you've got multiple speakers doing this over a day, you're going to bore people to death. Mm-hmm. Your information gets lost. What we want to do is create, how do I make sure that during my journey I take people on, there is an experience that shifts their hearts and minds? Like, how do I guarantee that?
Yeah, that would be great, because I suppose for me, that's the fear. Like, I don't know how to craft my story, and I see all these massive international speakers, obviously, with what I'm around, and it's like, oh, their thing is so beautiful and it flows, and I'm like, yes, how do I pack my life into this small and still make everyone go, oh.
Yeah. We walk away with literally that. Your stories, your key points, your signature experience, and effectively too, Jade, I'll teach you a style of presenting that no one else is using, that is effectively the epitome of authenticity, or the words just be you. Mm-hmm. And Joe, you saw it on Saturday when people, we remove the masks, and we do this in a beautiful, caring, loving environment over those 4 days. This isn't just presenting. You will walk away a different person, because you will realize that there can be this beautiful congruency in your whole life. Who you are when you wake up, who you are when you're doing lives, who you are on stage, who you are when you're with your partner or your family or with your friends, is all the same. There's this beautiful congruency, which means life then becomes effortless. This is what I love. I don't have to be anybody else but me in every given moment of the day. How fucking awesome is that? Do you know what I mean? That's empowerment. That's stepping into greatness. So when I walk on stage, I know that who I am going to be on stage is enough, because I'm becoming not just a world-class presenter, I'm becoming a world-class person, a world-class Andrew. So that congruency of This is why expansion is so important. Expand into that world-class person and then just take that person on stage.
Yeah.
I think we might have just waited. I think we might have waited just 40 minutes to actually, 45 minutes to get to that one point.
Yeah, I think that's the key takeaway, right? Because I must say that because I am a conference junkie and a personal development junkie, and I literally travel the world going to conferences and seeing people speak and all of that. And from getting to know people on and off stage, you can now very quickly see when it's an act and where the incongruency is, and the trust gets dropped immediately. And there's a couple of speakers now that I used to follow, listen to their podcasts and do all of the things that I literally can't sit in their audience because I'm like, it's just icky.
Yes.
And you can tell that a lot of it comes from a place of fear, because they're trying to be what they think they should be rather than being who they are. So I think if you can teach me, because I'm going to be in the group, but anyone that's coming to your workshop, how to embody that, how to be okay with that, and how to embrace it and have that congruency, man.
This is what puts people in their head on stage too, because if you wear the mask, you've got a range like this. It's like, I say this and make people laugh in my workshops. When I was in my 20s, I used to copy Brad Pitt. I can say this now because I'm old enough to get away with it. But,
you've got the same hair now.
Actually, this is the thing I was laughing with the audience on Saturday is the trouble with bloody Brad Pitt is every time he changed his freaking haircut or something changed, I had to go. It cost me an arm and a leg. So I felt like that Michael Jackson lookalike who has to keep changing his face every time Michael had an operation. The thing is, when I was copying him, I had a range of about that big because all I knew was what I'd seen in movies, right? But when we are able to own ourselves, your range is infinite. And this is pure engagement. Like you can effectively then do less on stage. You can do more by doing less. This is the magic.
Yeah, that's super powerful.
All righty, Jade, I'm going to have to go very, very soon.
Well, the thing is, we gave a very compelling offer for people to join us today. And that was the gift, if they made it to the end of the session, of a 40-minute call with you for one lucky listener.
Nice. Yep.
Oh, shit. Hold on, I've just got to check with Melissa because she was.
Sorry. Hello.
Hello.
It's like Keystone Cops here, isn't it?
Because you had all the registers. Could you draw the name?
I can. Let me just get it up. Well, we've got the people on here.
Hey, Melissa.
Oh, hello.
Is that someone begging for it?
Who was it?
Who was that?
That's Heather. Even though she's muted, she still has, through the abyss of being able to talk. That'd be right, Heather.
I haven't been in the same place as Melissa live for ages, so hey.
You're distracting me here, my love. Hang on.
Pop it in this chat.
That's what I'm just going to do.
Actually, quick 15-minute chat if you.
She disappeared. Can you Jade, have you disappeared? It's not just me, is it?
Am I here?
Yep.
Hello.
I'm going to interpret it. I'm going to interpret silence. I think what Jade's trying to say is that my calendar link is dropped in the comments. We'll also drop it into the event as well. You can book in a 50, am I getting this right? You can book in a 15-minute call to touch base on Bali, what's covered. I know at the moment we have a 50% off for the super early bird, which makes it 1,990. That covers airport transfer, the accommodation. Basically, that's everything, and your training at the beautiful Vision Villas. I think I did that pretty well, Jade. I mean, I don't want to take.
You did a wonderful job.
I did that pretty
Am
well.
I back?
You're back, but you've got there's no purpose anymore.
There's no purpose.
I've done it all.
The winner.
And the winner is who?
So Adriana gets a 40 call with you.
Adriana. Wow, nice. Who? Adriana, you're actually the one. You're actually the person that I can see. Nice.
Thank you. I'm the only one. That's interesting. Okay, we can hear each other now. That's great. So I have a session with you.
You have a
now
session.
Alive, are we?
I don't know if I'm not now live, and you could. It might be. It could be the Booby Prize yet. We don't know. But congratulations. I look forward to meeting you a bit more. We'll maybe Melissa, you could sort that out with Adriana, or Adriana, just send me a PM.
Yeah, that's perfect. I send that through your messenger. Is that right?
Yeah, send me a messenger. That's perfect.
Sure, I'll reach out.
Lovely.
Are you running any workshops here in Melbourne, Andrew?
In Melbourne?
Yeah.
I might do one near the end of the year.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, I'm just touring the world, Adriana. I'm a very important person.
That's right. That's okay.
There's a lot on. Yes, but I will.
So you are missing having a family meal. How does it sound? You know,
I actually look forward to coming home. I'm home very briefly for a couple of weeks until September. Now it's life on the road. I feel like a bloody rock band, but just with one person.
Yeah.
Like I play all the instruments.
Well. We've been traveling a lot as well at home, but it's quite fascinating. Nothing like home, isn't it? Yeah.
That's exactly my stuff.
No,
My
but
bed.
I would be interested when you run your workshop in November, December, because I do a lot of public speaking myself, and I really need to rate my authenticity up.
Well, my friends, thank you very much. I've got to jump on. I'm going to stop this.